Will Work for Patients, episode 38.
I think people are really drawn to the genuine side of businesses now, and that's largely because the world is so overly saturated with marketing just shoved at us constantly from every angle. You don't get out there and explore, network, and collaborate, you'll hinder yourself. Be humble, stay open, always stay hungry, always stay learning and evolving.
To me, the most important thing is to make sure you have a good product that will help people, and the rest kind of all falls into place.
What up, Will Workers? Frank Sardella here, and oh man, do I have a rockin' episode for you. Today, my guests are a husband and wife team who innovated to solve their problem in the corporate sector and are now reaching volumes of corporate employees with their extremely well-branded product that is spreading faster than you can imagine. So settle in for the long haul because they're going to share their killer backstory so you can learn a thing or two about dealing with corporate employees and maybe even booming your practice in the process. So strap in, because here it comes. Today's episode is entitled Success Through Innovation and a Killer Backstory. Here we go.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Will Work for Patients, a free advice podcast dedicated to help chiropractors get on purpose and grow their practices. Get ready to tune in and turn up the volume of your practice marketing. And now, turning up the volume on his mic, big-time chiropractic advocate and your host, here is Frank Sardella.
Hey, that's me. Hello, Will Workers. It's your humble host, Frank Sardella, and yes, I'm back for yet another episode. And man, I know I say this every time, but do I have an episode for you today? But how have you been doing since the last episode? Have you been enjoying the guests? Have you been applying what you're learning here? I hope you are, because otherwise I'm doing this for nothing. So we really need to keep this up, and man, do I have some guests that are going to inspire you today. And speaking of my guests today, it's sort of as a result of the fact that I've been up to my elbows in corporate screenings lately. Yes, actually doing them. I've been hitting the pavement at some Manhattan fairs and massage days for my New York City clients, and I have to tell you, it's refreshing to say the least, to be back out there. You know me, when I get out there and I'm advocating chiropractic, I'm on fire. And I've been on fire lately in talking to these corporate employees, and I've been learning a ton that I'm going to be passing along to you. One thing you should know, there's a lot of stress out there, and get this, our corporate America is being run by 23 to 27-year-olds who are completely stressed out in a way that I've even never seen before. And you guys know, as of this taping, I've been doing this 22 years. So that is going to segue nicely into our guest today. We have a great show planned for you, and I'll tell you something. If I didn't hit these health fairs for the last 3 months, I would have never gotten the opportunity to have these two on my show today. But first, I would like to pause to give some props to those who are helping me bring this episode to you. Good help is hard to find. How do you find that one gem, let alone keep them? Besides, aren't they working for someone else? Face it, you're looking for a clone of you who can do what you can do. What if several clones of you showed up right now? What could you accomplish? What would it mean to your practice? Clones are made, not found. So are staff members. Fortunately, someone can help you make them. Introducing basic staff training by my friends at Effective Management. No, they're not geneticists, but they're out to duplicate your actions as well as those used by top-notch administrators, instilling them in your staff, building you a team of on-purpose, confident staff gems and valuable to expansion. Here is an easy-to-follow system that takes minutes a day with your staff, turning them into an effective, supportive team without your even being there. I love their systemic innovation based on experience. In fact, I've witnessed even some of the most defiant staff becoming truly valuable to practices implementing basic staff training. I recommend you visit effectivemanagement.net and take advantage of their free 8-point business analysis revealing key areas of your practice keeping you from building that team and prohibiting your true potential growth. Visit effectivemanagement.net or call 551-804-7243. Build that support team you need to help you achieve your practice goals. Find out about basic staff training today. So my special guests today are what I would call entrepreneurs. Indeed, both worked in the corporate sector. One is even a busy attorney. Both had a need to fulfill in their own lives. They innovated to fulfill that need, then found others needed it as well. They are what I consider the ultimate in niche marketing, and a lesson or two can be learned from them. And all you will workers who want to promote to corporate demographics particularly will be interested in this. They refer to their former selves as just two regular working professionals based in New York City who found it hard to have consistently healthy meals during the work week and while traveling. Often they would eat poor quality food and have energy crashes during their busiest days. They searched high and low to find a product offering a meal that was quick, healthy, and delicious, but couldn't find anything. They found most products were either nutritionally imbalanced or loaded with ingredients they couldn't identify. Necessity being the mother of invention, my guests followed up on lots of research with trials of different combinations of natural freeze-dried fruits, veggies, and other ingredients, and with determination and a lot of love, produced their first batch of their new product they call Meal, and gave samples to a few friends and family members. And it just took off from there. The feedback was more than positive. It's then that they realized that many people were in need of a meal replacement solution. And this is typical of the corporate sector, and maybe it's even typical of you, will workers. Think of your busiest day. How many times have you worked through lunch? How many times have you needed to get something quick for lunch and you end up eating junk? This is the neighborhood we're going to be in today. So, Meal was born in hopes of feeding friends, family, and anyone else who was in need. And what a brand they have developed it into. I can't wait to get into this interview with them. And here's a direct quote. We wanted to do something that would not only fill our tummies and fuel our bodies, but also give back to our community. And so, they donate 10% of their profits to feed the hungry. How awesome is that? Why do I always do this? I'm gushing. Why don't I just let them tell their story the way it should be? So please welcome to Will Work for Patients, Adam and Lauren Benbasat.
Hello. Thanks so much for having us.
So glad to have you guys here, and as you can tell by my voice, I'm really excited to get into what's going on with you guys. It wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't been out doing screenings in the corporate sector, and Lauren, I actually met you at a health fair, at the end of a health fair, right? It was like you were
I'm glad you came over.
Yeah, and she's doing this curious thing and mixing up this concoction for everybody, and people are drinking samples, and I'm screening away. And I was just so intrigued I had to come over and talk to you. And I have to tell you, in the 1 minute that I spoke with you, I became very intrigued, not only by what you were saying, but the look and feel and the brand you've developed out of pretty much nothing, and literally nothing based on what you were finding out there to eat. So my introductions never do my guests justice. So I was hoping you and Adam could maybe tell your story just from the standpoint of your background and how it turned into what it is today.
Absolutely, I'd love to, and thank you for the amazing introduction. That was really, really beautiful. Well spoken. So right. I guess, I'll start with about a year ago, Adam's a corporate attorney, specifically a corporate attorney in New York City, which means long, rigorous hours, a lot of days where you're stuck at your desk and reviewing documents, you're on back-to-back phone calls. You don't have time. And if you do have those few minutes where you can order something online to be delivered, by the time you're eating it, it's cold, you're picking at it, and it's not great quality food. So it leads to that 3 p.m. energy crash where you just can't focus anymore and you want to fall asleep under your desk. Adam, you were pretty frustrated with that, right?
Yeah. So like you said, kind of necessity was the mother of invention. I can't tell you how many cold meals I threw away or how many times I just scarfed down, a bowl of ramen or whatever I could find. And I was kind of getting sick of it. I've always been kind of healthy, or at least health-focused, so I wanted to find a better solution. And I went out looking for it on the Internet, and I couldn't find anything. I mean, things got close, but a lot of products are either very high in carbs, not enough protein, a lot of synthetic or unidentifiable ingredients, and I just said there had to be a better way. So I pretty much ordered every powdered ingredient on the Internet and started tinkering.
It was like a science experiment. I mean, he would be, trying every which powdered, dried, freeze-dried, dehydrated thing he could get his hands on and just trying different levels and saying, okay, if I add this much of this, how much will it increase my carbs and my fats and my proteins? And so his objective was to have that perfect macronutrient balanced diet. In each meal, you should be getting about 35% protein, 40% carbs, and 25% fat, which is actually really hard to get in enough protein in our diets. And I think a lot of people tend to be, high protein deficient and fiber deficient. So the beauty in what we made is by freeze-drying ingredients, you actually retain a lot of the nutrients and a lot of the fiber. So we're able to get, a really high-quality product that's going to be low glycemic because there's no added sugar. So it's going to keep your energy levels that kind of long sustain, but then the high fiber and high protein kind of gives you that immediate satiation and keeps you full for a while. So it took a while. It took about 9 months to kind of figure it out or so.
Yeah, almost a full year.
Yeah, and then I'm, meanwhile, working a full-time job and still struggling with the same thing. I'd have the days where I didn't have time. So I started taking it to the office and using it myself, and then a couple coworkers were asking about it, and our family members were asking about it. So what started as literally just our own little passion project kind of evolved, and I worked on the branding with my marketing background, and, we started talking to printers and co-packers and manufacturers, and then, one thing led to another, and then come September, we launched, and then I think I met you maybe just a month or two after. So we are absolutely brand new.
Ground floor. I love it. I love it. As I said before, Will Workers, when I saw Lauren at the health fair and I saw the product, I think my eye went to the packaging first. She's really developed a great brand, and we're going to hook you up with their website at the end so you can actually check it out. Real quick, as part of the history, something you told me earlier was intriguing in the pre-show interview. You talked about how you named the product, which is ingenious. You called it meal, but it's spelled M-E-L-E. You told me there was a significance to that.
Yeah, Adam actually found that name while we were doing our brainstorming on all kinds of different names, and some of them were just immediately thrown in the trash that Adam loved. But he's the lawyer, right? I'm the marketing person. But no, Adam actually found it, so I guess you can go into the details.
Well, Lauren vetoed my first suggestion, which was Go Pack. I think that was probably for the best. But so we wanted something that was short, succinct, but would also say off the bat what it is. So you hear the word meal and you think food, and so that's where we started. We started with the current form of the word meal, M-E-A-L, and if you look at the etymology of that word, going back where it came from in the history of the language, one of the previous forms was M-E-L-E with a macron on top of the E. And it's pronounced meal because of that macron over the first E. And so I thought that had just a great sound to it, a great ring, and it really embodied what the product is. It's a meal. It is a meal replacement. And so some people have a little trouble with it off the bat because it's not an intuitive pronunciation of those letters when you read it.
It catches their attention. They're like, oh, what is that? That's not a normal spelling. So they ask about it. They say, oh, how do you say that?
Well, it caught my attention. You had me at meal, so
I love it,
for sure. Totally ingenious, simple branding, a lesson to be learned there. So I just have to say, obviously you two put a lot of thought into this product, a lot of personal, experimentation and time. And I just can't get over the amount of persistence just to solve that problem. How many people really have the time to want to take that much time to solve that kind of problem in their life, and how many people are living on the ramen noodles, the cold meals that get thrown away, and so on. It's like a continuation of college. Energy drinks and all these alleged substitutes that are only doing further damage and making you less productive at work, I'm sure. So there's a lot to be learned just from that. Here, Lauren and Adam looked for a solution. They experimented, they went to the ends of the earth, and they actually came up with a solution that solved the carb problem, solved the low-protein problem, and actually was a replacement for a meal that they could portably take to work, and realized along the way that, hey, we're not the only ones here who are having this issue, someone else is. What I take away from this is when you look for a need, you have a niche, a need that needs to be fulfilled, and this is what we tend to forget about. Will Workers, when you have a practice, whether you own the practice or whether you work for the practice and you have to go out and market that practice, our tendency is just to go out and advocate it and talk about it and never actually look to see what do people need? What are they deficient in? What are the voids in their life? But not from our viewpoint, from their viewpoint, an actual need. And Lauren and Adam said, gee, I wish I could get a nutritious meal during the day on the go with my busy corporate schedule. Especially Adam, you're an attorney, can't even imagine reading what you have to read throughout the day and doing all these things that you even have time to think about lunch. So amazing story. Well done, and kudos to you guys for that.
Thank you so much.
Now, I think I gave you guys a little bit of a brief detail. You met me at a health fair. I was there representing a chiropractic client. I was doing screenings, and I was helping get patients. This is something chiropractors everywhere learned many, many moons ago that you do to get qualified patients. Corporate people are stressed out. They have health problems, and they have an ability to pay for their care. They have insurance. This is the ideal demographic for chiropractors to find a really good source of patients. So your product is obviously ideal for the average corporate employee, especially nowadays. How have you found working nearly exclusively in the corporate market? I mean, have you had much success? Were there any closed or slammed doors along the way? What's your take been on it so far, and what have your overall challenges been?
Oh, man. Well, corporate it's definitely a challenging world to enter. And you do get a lot of closed doors. There's a lot of no's. So my biggest challenges have been finding, the right accounts, right? You really have to do your research, figure out what are the companies that are into wellness initiatives and want to start giving back to their employees more. So that's first, right? And then it's about, how do I educate? What am I going to give them that's really going to make their lives better? So for us, we've done a lot of research on eating healthy and the health benefits, eating more fruits and vegetables and boosting creativity and learning and overall health. So we've taken these stats and we kind of present it like, hey, here's the benefits to you. Here is the boost in productivity you are going to get, and here are the stats behind that. The challenge is getting in front of them and pitching them, but I think if you have true things that you can say, hey, this is what it's going to bring to you, point blank, that's probably the best hurdle to get past. So it does take a little bit of stepping back from the ego of your business and wanting to get that next sale and that next account and kind of really thinking, how does this benefit my customer? And that goes back to, sales 101. So you got to really kind of take a step back from that all. Ask yourself those hard questions and put it in that perspective from, if I am that HR director, what does it do for me?
What have you found that the response has been? Especially you mentioned something about where you were showing the stats and benefits, like the direct benefit somebody's going to get from the product. That's obviously part and parcel to your pitch. How have you found the response to that, given the amount of research you put in and how much information you're giving them on how good it could be or what the ideal is?
I mean, incredible. I think the companies that want these wellness initiatives not only want to provide products, but they also want to educate. So I think that they love, we're talking about boosting productivity with low glycemic food. So they love the addition of the education for their employees. Not to mention, I mean, you can get into, and Adam's a little more well-versed on this, tax deductions and things that benefits the actual employer versus just that extension to the employee. So you got to pitch HR on that, wouldn't you say, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. When we were putting all this research together, I was originally doing it just for myself so I could know whether or not it was a good product. And I hoped people would read it, but I didn't know if anybody ever actually would. But it turns out people are very interested in the research, not just corporations, but just general folks ordering off our website. I think it adds some value to the product and to your marketing pitch to be able to say, not only here is a good tasting meal that you can make quickly and it'll make your life easier, but here are some concrete stats as to how it can help you in some ways that you might not have thought of. And so I'm flattered by how much people have actually taken to that and how much they actually read the stats and read the research and are thankful for it, because it's a little bit of a value add in addition to just having a good product to sell.
Yeah, for example, I have an account that wants me to come in and share samples and have the employees taste it. But in addition to that, she actually wants me to give a presentation to the staff on healthy eating and what we can do and avoiding the common go-tos of, okay, I'm just going to grab a muffin and a coffee and go sit at my desk and then, starve myself until 3 o'clock. And she wants to bring me in as a source of education. So I think people are always looking for value adds.
Absolutely.
So I think if you're going to sell somebody on a service, you kind of have to, it's got to be, well, what else can we do?
I love that. As a matter of fact, well, workers, first of all, how would you like to have that where HR is really clamoring for more and asking you for more things and more education and whatever, and like really being interested in you as opposed to you being interested in them. And although Lauren and Adam, I'm sure you have been on the other side of that coin too, where you've gotten disinterest, those many disinterested that you have to go through, I'm sure, is all worth it when you get that one interested company, the next one on board, where they're really, really focused on employee wellness and they love you for it. So that's the lesson we can all learn. But I think, Lauren, that you hit it right on the head when you talked about value-added services, because we tend to just think of what we do. A chiropractor thinks, well, I deliver chiropractic and I'm going to save the world through chiropractic, but they're not thinking of the fact that there's people who suffer from headaches and chiropractic does this, and there's people who suffer from lower back pain and chiropractic does that, and there's different facets of what people need and want. And they should be looking at those needs rather than what they do and what the solution is, because the needs are what really need to be met. And multiple needs. It's not just once you get your foot in the door with a company that you're in and everybody's going to come to you. It's got to be a constant back and forth of what else do you need, what else do you need, what else do you need. Those needs are there, and all you have to do is ask, find out. And obviously, Lauren and Adam have had the initiative to do that. I'm sure a lot through experience. It definitely helps, and I can vouch for this. My listeners know I started out in the corporate sector before I even knew what chiropractic was. And we even had a corporate cafeteria, but I found myself still having those bad habits and not being able to fulfill myself nutritionally or without breaking the bank as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different facets to that. So excellent point. And as far as boosting productivity, these are things, folks, that HR is concerned with. Years ago, I had my own health care company, and I've had a lot of experience taking HR people out to lunch and so on. And it's always the same thing. They have the same pressures to boost productivity, to raise morale, to do all these things. And they have to get more and more involved, and they have very few tools available to them. And that's where we can take advantage if we can show them how we can go along with what they really need and help them get their job done better. That's both HR and employee. That's the ace in the hole. And that's what I see that Adam and Lauren have found with their product, because it was based in that corporate niche to begin with. So that's awesome.
I think what a lot of people are looking for now, too, is a story. And I think that's what kind of draws people initially into working with a company. Maybe it's customer testimonials, or maybe it's your own personal story, like Frank, your background of how you got into this, your own needs and your own life-changing experience. So I think people are really drawn to the genuine side of businesses now. And that's largely because the world is so overly saturated with marketing just shoved at us constantly from every angle. So the more I think you can provide a sale that somehow has a genuine story behind it, I think that's only going to help you more.
I couldn't agree with you more, Lauren, and I want to thank you for that, and I'll tell you why. This is what my biggest challenge is in coaching and podcasting to this particular audience. We're dealing with professionals who are very much different than the average person who goes to college and gets a degree in a certain concentration and then goes out and gets, quote, a job. And chiropractors usually have a story behind why they went to school, and it's never money, I can tell you that. And the reason is because someone touched them, someone inspired them. Whether it was they got well through chiropractic, they had a miracle, as did I. My whole first podcast episode was just a half an hour about me telling my story. And stories are inspirational. That's how I got into advocating this. And you guys have a story, and I think that's great. Episode 37 of the podcast, Nanette DeGroat, tells the story of laying in her closet on the floor in tears when she had to move from size 16 up to 18. And she persisted through, somehow handled the problem, had an amazing miracle experience, and then turned it into one of the most entrepreneurial organizations I've ever seen. So
yeah, she's been incredibly successful. I listened to her podcast, and I think I can attest to that, and that goes back to because she told that story, she has an amazing client base because people see themselves in that. They hear that, and they say, I've been there. I've felt that way. And, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, and there's somebody who can help me.
It resonates big time. I can't emphasize this enough, Will Workers. You actually need to bring that inspiration, that passion. Episode 35 was Passion is the Best Marketing Campaign. Go back and listen to that episode like 10 times. You can't listen to it enough. there are so many aspects to why you do what you do. And when you bring that out, which it can get buried, I know how you get beaten down every day, but when you bring that out, people do get inspired, and it does pay forward, and it does pay you back. So brilliantly worded, and I feel like I should pay you. That was almost as if I set you up for that one. You couldn't have said the more perfect thing in an interview on my show. Look, guys, I'd like to hear from both of you on this one. We're getting toward the end of the episode here. I think we've provided a lot of inspiration, but I'm very curious. What would you say is the foremost lesson that you've learned from this business, or being an entrepreneur, or just having a product that fulfilled a need and then sort of took off, and all your trials and tribulations and all your experiences with it? What would you say would be the foremost lesson you feel you've learned?
Oh, different things. Go ahead, Adam.
So for me, it's product first. I know there's a lot of emphasis on different tactics you can take to put your market into the mainstream and get it in front of people and acquire customers. But to me, the most important thing is to make sure you have a good product that will help people. And the rest kind of all falls into place. So that's what I think we did. We focused on having a good product that will help people first, and then did everything else second. I think ultimately that leads to a better product, a better company, and happier customers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we still have so many challenges ahead of us, I know, as a startup company and an entrepreneur. And Adam's working still full-time, and I'm running this on my own and harassing him when I can. So I know we're going to have a million more challenges and days where you just want to give up. And we've already had those days where it's like, oh, are we even going to make it another week? But I think what I've learned is you have to be humble, and you have to continue to always learn from others. So, who knows if I'm right or wrong, but for me so far, it's just been asking questions and meeting new people, like meeting you at the health fair and learning about this whole world that you're involved in and not even knowing it exists. So I guess if you close yourself off as a business owner and just say, this is how it's done and this is how I'm going to do it, and you don't get out there and explore and really kind of network and collaborate, you'll hinder yourself. There's so much out there to learn, so you have to kind of be humble, stay open, always stay hungry, always stay learning and evolving.
Very well said.
I will say one thing, maybe a little bit off topic, but to what Lauren was saying, when we first thought how we were going to market this company, it didn't look anything like it does now.
No.
Lauren has gone out, and to her point, you have to be open and ask questions and things like that. She has gone out and found avenues of marketing that I never would have thought of, and that, quite frankly, I don't think I could have done.
No, you could have. You never know what's out there. Like, there's so many different marketing avenues and different strategies and connections, and you just got to kind of start feeling it out.
But I've been so impressed with the way that you've allowed the process to lead you rather than you trying to lead the process, which I think gets you to a better place. Because you're not trying to shoehorn a marketing strategy into a product that maybe doesn't fit, or vice versa. The way Lauren has gone about it is just asking questions and getting feedback and seeing what the response is and following the paths that make the most sense based on empirical evidence in her experiences.
I was actually in a little female founders group this morning, and we were talking a lot on this and how do I get new customers and how do I figure this out? And I'm like, you ask your current customers, what are your needs? Where do we help? And how did you find us? And what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And I'll get an order, and it'll be a stranger, and I'll just email them and say, hey, thank you for your support, and I'd love to hear how you're using our product and the benefits you're seeing, and any insight, good or bad, that you want to share. So use the support that you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I could go on forever, sorry.
No, I would like to let you go on forever, but I just want to point out a couple of things, Will Workers. Look at all these gems that were just dropped in our laps here. Adam's talking about product first, and Lauren talking about being humble and learning from others and meeting people and actually talking to people and learning about things you didn't even know were out there or didn't even exist. Even Adam said he wouldn't have been able to, from what he feels, do what Lauren did because he didn't even know what questions to ask. and that oftentimes we get so set in our ways that we're closing ourselves off to what's best. And then we can look back on our practices. Lauren and Adam can look back on their business, and according to Adam, it didn't look anything like it looks now. And Lauren sort of went out there and asked the right questions and met the right people, and it sort of metamorphosized into what it is today and into the brand it is. So they innovated. I always bring this up, and I feel really bad. Whoever this author is, I have to find out. I'm going to have to buy this book. I keep saying I don't need to read the book because as soon as I heard the title to this book, it made complete sense to me. You get ready, you decide what you're going to do, and then you just fire. You just get out there and you start it. And worry about aiming later because you don't know what you're going to hit up against, and you don't know. There are certain things you don't even know are out there that you're going to hit on, and maybe your company is going to take a completely different direction to be successful than if you sat down and you were ready and you work on the aim. Too many practice owners actually sit there and they work on the planning and the financing and the build-out, and they're not just firing and starting to deliver. And I think that brings us back to what Adam said, where he said product first. It's not just your story, but it's the miracles that have not only happened to you, but that you're creating in others. And you have to actually go out and create those miracles, and that's the best marketing campaign there is, even above passion. Because you can have passion, but without the product, it's all for naught. So I think that was genius. I want to thank you both for that. I couldn't have asked for better answers to my questions. Man, I feel like we can do a whole other episode just based on what you said. So thank you for that. It was a great recap. And now for the last word. Who gets the last word? I do. After all, it's my show. What should we take away from today's episode? If anything, I'd like you to take away one thing. That niches and demographics are the way to go when you're marketing, especially to corporate people, but you have to be fulfilling an actual need. As Adam said, product first. So provide an amazing product because people will talk about that product as well. Adam and Lauren obviously achieved that with Meal. They have a great brand that is fulfilling a real need, and people are getting more and more interested. It's not just something you think people need, but what people really know they need. Sometimes it takes a look inward. Lauren and Adam had a need and decided to go for it. And with extreme persistence and patience, against what? Closed doors and other obstacles I'm sure they came up against, they made it into a well-branded product. That's a hit right out of the gate. What could you innovate? Start getting out there and getting to know people. Do some corporate screenings and talk to people. They're pretty open about telling you what they do and don't want. You just have to get over yourself and listen. Adam, Lauren, I can't thank you enough for being here. I think it was a brilliant episode. I really love good entrepreneurial stories that aren't just, how am I going to make money? How am I going to hustle? How am I going to get my funnel going? Too many people get caught up in that process of what entrepreneurs do without having a good product to start on. And you guys obviously are not in that category. It's admirable, the hard work you're doing. I should acknowledge that you're donating 10% of your profits to feed the hungry. I think that's amazing. And you guys are somehow doing it. Adam, you're still being an attorney by day. Lauren, you're pounding the pavement every day to get it going on. And I can tell you guys are going to get all the success you deserve. So thank you again for sharing that with my audience. I'm sure there's a lot of helpful information here that they can use.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. And some days are really hard, but it's nice to know that we have your admiration and support. And I'm just going to keep chugging along and hope for the best.
Absolutely. Well, this is the part of the show where I invite our listeners to reach out to our guests to be able to ask questions or for further information. I would also like my audience to check out the product. And Will Workers, I want to make a sort of a bold statement here. I am actually in talks with Lauren trying to figure out how we can mesh this product in chiropractic offices. And that's still on the drawing board and still on the discussion board. But meanwhile, you should get in touch with her anyway. Try the product. This product could be your ticket in to corporations in many ways. So maybe there's a way we can hook all that up. But what is the best way for people to reach out if they wanted to ask you some questions, and also how to find out about the product?
Sure. I'd love to hear from anybody, even if it's just questions on nutrition and information or just plain old advice. I'm always happy to network and brainstorm. The best way to get in touch with me is my email address. Very simple. hello@mealshake.com. So that's MELE S-H-A-K-E. So hello@mealshake.com, and then obviously the website is Mealshake, MELESHAKE.com. And we spoke about a little bit of the research that we did. So if you want any more information on that, I'm happy to pass along our information booklet that we have so you can kind of get the full recap on our products, our ingredients, and those stats that we've kind of figured out.
And it's in the FAQ.
Yep, and it's in the FAQ on the website.
Okay, and thank you for that. What we will also do is I'm going to put all that information and any other information that you want to send me to also include. We're going to have a whole write-up on your episode page, which will be found at willworkforpatients.com/meal, M-E-L-E. And
awesome.
That will be the episode page, and we'll have in the show notes, we'll have how to contact, how to reach out to Lauren, and how to get onto the website. Again, hello@mealshake.com, and the website, mealshake.com. Guys, I am very tempted to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Frank.
So you never know, a few episodes from now, we'll see what's happening. We'll talk about the status quo. If anything, we want to see how this all turns out for you guys and how big it actually gets. I'm sure you're in this year for many pleasant surprises, I'm sure. So thank you both again for being here.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Thanks so much.
So, my friends, we've come to the end of another compelling episode. On behalf of myself, my staff, Lauren and Adam, and the rest of the Screening Experts crew, I thank you so very much for being here, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Will Work for Patients. So long.
Be sure to subscribe and share. Will Work for Patients has been brought to you courtesy of Screening Experts, bringing unscripted simplicity to chiropractic marketing complexity. Today's episode, copyright Screening Experts LLC, musical score composed and arranged by Frank Sardella ASCAP. For more information, visit screeningexperts.com.